Hello, this week discussion video is on how to conduct a lit review and highlighting some of the things that we learned from the lit review in which we selected. So the lit review that I selected is a systematic review of impact of citizenship education on student learning and achievement. Looking at my lit review, it was a easy layout to kind of follow what the authors were looking for and what they wanted to identify from their research. It started off with mostly with the background information, like most lit reviews. Within the background information, they laid out different vocabulary words. So they talked about what it meant to be a part of a citizen education program. They talked about the definition of lifelong learners. They reviewed learning processes and what that meant for the studies in which they were looking for. They also addressed a number of aims. This was kind of different because I know that we were supposed to look at one particular question. My lit review had 3 aims. The first one was, what is the impact of citizenship education on student learning and achievement? The second one was, what is the impact of citizenship education on student cognitive outcomes? And the third one is, what are the implementations of the findings of the review for teacher education? The overall, though, theme, or I shouldn't say theme, but the overall aim of the article was to find relationships between the teaching of citizenship education and student learning and achievements. So from the aim area of the background, they went into their method, and within their method, they reviewed the group and talked about the type of authors that were a part of the group for the lit review. They also talked about their approach and their rationale for their approach. They identified and described the studies in which they selected. They started off with 645 different reports. Then they started to talk about their criteria. They wanted reports that were empirical research reports, and they wanted a specific, well, not really a specific population, because their population was a range of elementary to high school students. I thought that was pretty interesting. So they outlined the terms that they used to find their articles, and they even created charts to outline those terms that they use in order to find the articles. They had a table of details of their selection and how they broke down their criteria for their selection. For example, they had information on there about the type of citizenship education learning processes. So they found or talked about different types of learning processes. And so they broke the articles down based on which one of those processes they were talking about. And they had an awesome chart in there that kind of had the x-axis was the type of learning processes, and then the y-axis was the impact on student learning. From there, when they went deeper into their review of their articles, they went from 645 to 35 articles. Before they went to a deeper review, from the 645 articles, they went to 35 articles that kind of looked at that top aim, looking at that relationship between teaching of citizenship and student learning achievement. So they found 35 articles from there, and from that they went into a deeper review where they reported on 13 articles. And what criteria they looked at for those 13 articles, they started to look at, were the articles trustworthy? Were they appropriate? Were they relevant? And then they had a section I didn't really understand, which is the overall weight. I guess just looking at all 3 of those things put together. When they talked about the summary of their findings, they went a little bit study by study. They did not kind of incorporate all of the studies together when they outlined the 13 different reports that they reviewed. After they went from study to study to talk about the different findings of each study, Then they had a section in there which was key themes in which they found from all of the studies. I thought that was pretty interesting because I thought from Dr. Schultz's video that we were kind of just to interwove all of the studies, but mine actually went study by study and then they interwove their themes together. Sorry, looking at my notes. Their final, in a nutshell, their final findings about the relationship of educational citizenship, education, and student learning is very complex. So they were not able to get down to the major topic or major idea that they thought they would, but they just found that it was a very complex domain, is what they called it, and that it had an interrelationship of different things. And so from that part, they talked about the strengths and limitations of the reports in which they looked at, and they talked about the implementations of the different reports. So overall, I learned a lot from my literature review. Comparing it to kind of the structure and the things that we learned about literature reviews, I'm not sure it was the best example of a literature review, just because I had I had a few questions about, well, we were supposed to come with one question, and this had 3 different questions, and looking at how we are not supposed to go study by study and say study A said and study B said, and mine actually did that. So I liked the layout of it as far as it was easy to follow. It was easy to refer to, but there were some questions that I had. So that's a lot. Hopefully I didn't talk too fast and you all got some of my learnings and findings. Have a great one.